Okay, so cool things to do with AI for students. One thing is, so if you're reading a novel that is popular, you can ask ChatGPT about the novel and it will give you some information. Now, I've seen people say that you can use it to say, like, respond to me as if you're the Great Gatsby. And I don't like that because it just makes a lot of assumptions. And if students feel like they are actually talking to the Great Gatsby and they get their answers from there, they're not necessarily correct. And even if they are, technically correct, they're extremely subjective and the student themselves hasn't done the thinking. So I don't think that that's really a useful activity to do with ChatGPT, at least as like an assignment. But what I found is that I've been talking about data storytelling, and I think that ChatGPT is very good at analogizing things and therefore helping people understand, more thoroughly or from a different perspective or more angle content. So what I had ChatGPT do as an experiment is explain to me the main points of a novel. And then I said, use the voice of the character to explain it from his perspective. So that gave us another interesting idea about the novel. And I said, explain, this was the giver. I said, explain the community and the giver. Explain to me the nuances of the community. Okay, cool. And then I said, in what ways would you say that's alike or different to life? And then I described where I lived or, the age of the student that I'm talking about. What are some ways that he or she might be able to understand this more thoroughly? And so it did that. And then I said, okay, can you turn this into a bit of like an analogy that would help us to understand that's like outside of the context of a community? And it also did that. So what I ended up with was like this really good set of content that would be very interesting to use in a lesson. Or better yet, you could generate it while the students are with you so that they can see the potential of ChatGPT, free AI, to help them understand things instead of to facilitate cheating. Because I think very soon they're not going to think, well, they already don't think, but they're not going to think that this has anything to do with plagiarism and that is how you write, which is worrisome. Because if you've ever written anything with ChatGPT, you know that you do need to give it a very thorough read through. And even if you just copy it to a word processor, you'll see that there's often like errors and that kind of thing. And I found that it will even like change acronyms and, it does have some issues. So you do still need a very critical eye. And then again, it comes down to how you prompt it. So I don't know. What do you think? I think there's a place for teaching students. Like, I think not avoiding it and saying never use AI, that's cheating, but rather addressing those issues so that students have the tools in their toolkit to use it to actually learn. That's my thought.